What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School. This is a show where I teach podcasters how to love the show like a hobby, but build it like a business. We're back for another podcast audit today, and I've got my new pod pal, Renata Musial from the Millennial Midlife podcast, and I can't wait to dig in. I got a ton of notes. Fellow Midwesterner here in the house. So Renata, we met on Clubhouse. I'm very excited to pull you into my world and do one of these here.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for you to help me out with my baby podcast.
Yeah. So give us a little insight on who you're trying to serve with this. I like to dial in there first.
Yeah. So the Millennial Midlife is for millennials who are turning 40, basically. I just turned 40 last year, and I feel like there's this weird in-between space between like the midlife, quote unquote, space seems to be like women kind of 50 and over and who are empty nesters, maybe they're really rediscovering themselves. I'm kind of maybe a 10 years to 15 years, trying to talk to those women who are just a hair before that, who are finding that they're kind of struggling with like mom life. Their kids are still little, very much needing them around. Maybe they stay at home with them. Maybe they're working, but they're in a career where they're like, WTF, how did I get here? I made these decisions. Now I'm in this career or in a relationship and they're kind of in this weird middle space. And so I kind of want to just talk about some of the things that we're going through and also very much encourage them to stay true to who they are, maybe rediscover themselves, because I got to be honest, I don't want to wake up at 55 and then have to rediscover myself. I don't want to have to wait till I'm, my kids are gone and then say, okay, now it's my time. So those are the kind of conversations that I want to have.
Okay. So I love the niche. I love the name. And I see tremendous opportunity in transition phases of life. And that's exactly where you're sitting. There's opportunity for monetization. There's opportunity for community building. There's opportunity for engagement, because that's where people need help, is in the transition zones.
Yeah.
Like if they're at the start or at the end, like there's usually very clear cut programs, products, services, content that'll serve them. But people that are in the middle, that's where things get confusing. And you're the person that kind of helps unconfuse things and make things clear. You create clarity. So where would you like to start today? I've got ideas around audience growth, around audience engagement, around monetization. Where would you like to kick off the conversation today?
Man, I knew you were going to ask me this. I'm like all three. I guess, okay. So I want this to, community building is huge for me or important. Just to give you a quick background, like I started this so I have a coaching business, and I wanted this to be an additional platform where I could create content and really speak off of social media to my audience.
Yeah.
And so right now what I'm doing is, using the podcast to kind of ideally, have people learn about me and how I coach and how I work. And, my goal would be that they would reach out and say, hey, I want to work with you. I want to hire you. So I would love to know maybe a little bit more about how I can monetize, or at least, I know the podcast is a long, long game. So I'm willing to put in the work, and I know it's not going to be overnight, but yeah, how do you start to talk to, whether it's sponsors, whether it's creating, new offers for podcasters? I'm sort of in this, like, what do I do next?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about something that's going to be a real good use of your time, because obviously as business people, we got a lot of things going on, and we don't want to like just be, putting our time out there wasting on things that aren't really going to produce for us. So I think a low-hanging fruit, something that can really produce for you, is like taking the template of what you and I are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're pulling people off of social media or off of the podcast listenership, and you're getting some eyeball to eyeball coaching time. All right. So I have coaching services as well. So this is going to be a really good template for you to use, where you go, okay, like you and I met on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And what was the call to action? I go, hey, if you're already a podcaster, I do these things called podcast audits. Here's the link. It's free. We create content. It's on the show. And like hardly anybody is ever like, oh, that sounds terrible. I would never want to do that. It's very attractive. You get free coaching. But so you think about, all right, what are the benefits for my listeners first, for the guest next, and for myself third? So you always think like, okay, if I pull somebody out of who's it like, I know that you're listening to the show now, but you didn't listen to the show before we met on Clubhouse.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a benefit right there. Boom, new podcast listener. And you said
Mhm.
you listened to quite a few episodes. That's awesome. Thank you for your download donation.
Mhm.
But this is gonna be great for our audience because you represent the ideal listener that I want to serve.
Okay.
So the
Yeah,
questions that you have, the pain points that you have, the things that we're discussing today, those are going to serve everybody that are listening in.
for
All
sure.
right. So that's good. That checks that box. All right. What's in it for your guest? Obviously, they're getting some free coaching. You're helping them if they're feeling a little stuck. Like you just said, you're like, I got to move to this next phase. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that next right step is. That's what we're going to kind of hash out here today. And that's what you'll do in a situation like this. You help them
Okay.
move from maybe not even point A to point B, but it's like point A to point A, point one. It's like
Sure.
halfway in between.
Yeah.
But you just get them unstuck and into motion.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And then for you, you are positioning yourself as an expert coach. You get to show off what you can do.
Mhm.
It's great content that you don't have to think of something new to say. It's driven by your audience.
Yeah.
So like I have a bunch of notes and things like that based off of what you filled out for me, but I wasn't like, and this is the topic of our discussion today. And I didn't have to do all
Right.
that. So it saves you time as a content creator, and the expert positioning is like none other. So for people that offer coaching services and they just interview experts, maybe they do some solo episodes, that is a long game. Like maybe you sponsor your show with your coaching program. You mention every
Mhm.
once in a while, you'll get some clients that way. But if you start doing these types of episodes and people are hearing you on a regular basis as a coach, as a
Yeah.
expert positioned coach, it ramps things up big time. My coaching business exploded. I had to raise prices, the whole thing, because people are hearing me do these every single Friday. These are coming
Yeah.
out. So, and then the other benefit is a certain percentage of the people that you're actually doing these coaching sessions with are going to go, wow, like that's the appetizer. What's the meal look like? Let's do
Sure.
business. And so that's a thing too. It's not expected. It's not, and it's kind of weird to talk about because we're doing one of these right now. I'm not, it's kind of like
Yeah.
we're getting all meta on it here, but like that's a thing. Like a lot of these people, they'll go, wow, I did this thing with Renata. She really got me unstuck.
Mhm.
I don't want to lose that momentum. What are your options? How do we work together at some capacity? And then you have, a menu of options to put out there in front of them, with your coaching or whatever makes sense. So I think that doing some sort of an audit style,
Mhm.
like where you pick 1 to 3 zones where they typically get stuck. So with my brand, it's
Yeah.
audience growth, audience engagement, and monetization.
Yeah.
And we can move people in the right direction on that. Look at what are 1 to 3 pain points that your typical, like your ideal clients
Okay.
struggled with.
Yeah.
Like, start with your ideal clients. We want more of those.
Right.
We
Yeah.
want those. And we use them as the template and work backwards to go, when I first got with them, what were they really struggling with? Let's
Mhm.
audit that. Let's create some sort of
Okay.
like the midlife mom audit or the midlife woman, the midlife transition, something
Yeah.
that helps them go from point A to 8.1 or whatever we talked about. So that is the challenge I'll put out there with you, and to kind of map it out and go, all
Okay.
right, what's this journey look like? Like I've got a whole podcast success timeline thing where I can look at the information that you give me. I'm like, all right, she's in the post-launch frustration zone. That's phase 2 of what I call the podcast success timeline.
Dang, phase 2 only?
I've got 2 of 4. I've got you're out of
okay. All right.
you're out of the podcastination zone. You've
Mhm.
launched,
Yep.
but now I can tell you symptoms and I can give you a checklist on how we move to the next phase.
Okay.
And if you can do that,
Yeah.
it sounds like you primarily serve women with your show.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But like if you can dial in and go, all right, girl, like here's where you're at. You're in this phase. Here are the symptoms you're experiencing. And they're going, she's in my head right now.
Yes.
She knows.
And I'm getting that from the podcast. Like the listeners, when they respond, they're like, I have a girlfriend who sends me text messages from her friend group where they're like, literally that's what they're saying. She's in my head. Oh my God. Thank God you're saying this, And so I know that I'm on the right track, and now and so I love this idea of like, bringing people onto so is it bringing people onto the show and doing like a podcast where I'm actually like live coaching or kind of hot seat coaching them? Okay. All right.
Yep. Exactly what we're doing right here. Like this is the
cool.
template. And like I do this more from a content creation expert positioning perspective. This model is sometimes called the guest as client, where like it's really focused on, I got to get that person in the guest seat to be my client. I'm more of a long play. Like, let's just build a relationship. I'm going to add as much value, and if it makes
Sure.
sense, it makes sense, sort of
Yeah.
a thing. But to me, it just shortens the span of my listenership. I feel like I need to give them fewer exposures if I'm doing this type of content. Like, maybe the average person, if I don't do these style of episodes, they're going to listen to my show for 2 years and then they'll buy a coaching package. I feel like they
Yeah.
listen to 4, 5, 6 of these episodes, and I'm doing them every week now. Like, that's how effective they are. If they listen to 4, 5, 6 of these, a lot of these people, if they're thinking about hiring somebody, I'm very top of mind, and a lot of them are doing business with me. So that I feel
Yeah,
like
because they
it
can
just
sense.
shortens.
Yeah, they know your style. They can see, because
Exactly.
I'm definitely not for everyone, and that's okay. Like, I don't want to be, right? And so, but it's, yeah, you immediately get a sense of what my vibe is, what the style is. I'm kind of no BS, and you either like that or don't. So I
Yep.
like that idea of like showing them an example. It's tough on social media. Even sometimes, like in the podcast, you're talking to I don't have guests right now on my show. So it's just like me talking to me. And that does convey a decent amount, but yeah, this would be so much
Yeah.
quicker. And yeah, I like that.
Now, are you on a 1 episode per week release schedule, or what's that
Yep.
look like? Okay.
Yeah. I'm 1 episode a week right now.
So let's talk about content production, what
Yep.
this would do.
Okay.
What I would suggest is 1 week, normal Renata solo episode. Next week, coaching style episode, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So then for a year of content, instead of 52 things you got to talk about, that cuts it down to 26.
Yeah,
all right.
nice.
And now the content is driven by your potential clients, your listeners, and it's still just as good. These episodes get way more downloads than when I have somebody big and famous and fancy on my show.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost double.
I bet. I mean, and I've struggled with not struggled, but like been thinking about, okay, so do I want to do guests? And one of the reasons why I've kind of shied away from it a little bit, is because, I mean, who am I going to work to get some like big name, or even the not big names? Like, I want it to be more about me being that expert leader and showing them, teaching them, so I like this different way of looking at it.
Let your audience members be the star of the show.
Yeah.
Like, they're your guests, and they're going to help you drive content. And they just, it's funny because I only talk about 3 things on this style of episode. And every week it's kind of the same. I always talk about community engagement, lead magnets, audit style episodes, podcast player ads, but people listen every single time. The downloads just keep going nuts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because there's always a different spin. There's different ways to apply it to different niches and things like that. And I think your niche is like, it's just there, and it's ripe for action, and they are ready to be coached. They want to take action. They just don't know what direction to go, like we talked about. And you're that person that's going to kind of be the glue. So when you start going on social media and going, hey, here's what I'm doing, we come up with a nice, friendly sounding name that's attractive. And it's a little bit different. Like, when you're talking about a business show, the word audit it's not like a negative, podcast audit, it infers I'm getting help. When you're in the self-development, if somebody has like a therapy-based show or a weight loss-based show, I wouldn't call it an audit, because that makes you think judgy,
Yeah, to be a little sensitive about
so the words are going to be important, but like, but you don't want to just to call it like a free coaching session. There has to be like a theme, a name. It can be the blah, blah, blah coaching session. Like, it's got to have the midlife transition coaching session,
brand it in a way that's like,
I like the word on ramp for you. Like, it's almost like we're transitioning from this and the on ramp to the next level of your life. Like, the Millennial Momentum on ramp or something like that. I don't
mull it over.
Yeah. So something like that, like inferring momentum.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you're going to plug into this and momentum is gained, and we're going to a different level at that point.
Okay,
I think that's the way I would name it. But I think, this is going to increase your audience engagement. So you can do little, like I love doing the 1 minute highlight clips when I do these. So I can pick out something that makes me look smart, and I post that on social media. I'm like, look at this thing I said. Wow, he must be super smart. And so it was a great content that kind of spills out of these.
Sure.
But audience engagement, these people will become super fans. Like, just what you told me before we went live. You're like, we met on Clubhouse. you sign up for this and you start listening to a bunch of my episodes,
Yeah.
that's going to happen for you too. It creates
Yeah.
people that binge listen to your show, potential super fans, referrals of people that bring other people to your world. Maybe those people do business. Like, it's just really, really a really good use of your time. Like, a lot of good stuff happens out
Yeah,
of
that
this.
sounds great.
And like we said, this is going to cut your content production schedule in half of
Yeah,
what's
I
on
like
you.
that.
Yes. Now these start cooking for you and you really start seeing the client uptick. You may look at doing what I do, where I do a episode on Tuesday. I have interviews. And so one Tuesday will be an interview. The next Tuesday, it's me going solo via a PodPal Zoom party. And then every Friday is a podcast audit. So that's something, but if you start putting these out, the other key thing is you want to advertise on that episode how to sign up for it, because that way it'll start to self-propel and fill up. Like, I'm doing 4 of these today. I've got another 4 tomorrow. I could release an episode with a podcast audit almost every day of the year.
Wow, that's cool.
We've got so many of them, but this is building your email list. I want the price of admission is an email collection, which is fair, off the value that you're going to deliver. And if you segment your email list at all, I would have like sort of a super fan star next to these people, because they're listening to your stuff. They're already consuming your content, and they go, I want to interact with Renata at a deeper level.
Yeah.
And they're nudging towards that coaching relationship. So if you have a special offer or like a list that you send special things to, put them on that list, because they need to be, that relationship deserves to be nurtured. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about, do you feel like that's going to serve you as far as like monetization, audience connection ideas?
Yeah, I think it's going to, it gives me a way to, I don't want to say use the content in a different way, but to again, the goal is to like showcase myself as like the expert. Right. And so this is, I didn't think about actually doing like live coaching, and to your point, like it makes the content creation easier. And I guess my one question would be, well, so you did say, to find the ideal client. Okay. So that point, and then, creating like some type of, title for it or a hook. And then I guess just reaching out to my current audience. Right. And especially the ones who have said, hey, I love this, far. And maybe start to invite some of those people to be my friends.
Handpick your first few that are like your super fans that comment on your Instagram posts or show up in clubhouse rooms. Get a few of those, get them out, and then they'll start to self-fill, and you won't have to touch it. Cool. And then it's just a great, very easy, unique call to action. Like, we were in that clubhouse room and I put that out there. I had probably a dozen people sign up for these things just off that one clubhouse room.
Yeah.
Now I noticed in your notes, you're talking about doing some sort of a community Zoom meetup like I do, or a clubhouse room. Like, that's another thing that you could add content wise. Like, I do my PodPal Zoom party, which you need to come and check one of those out as well.
Yes.
So because in the space, sometimes people are a little gun shy about one-to-one, but they'll do a group. And so I do both because they just work really well. So I don't spend a lot of time or money on email funnels or, Facebook marketing.
That. I like the ease of the I
don't do any of that. I just build relationships. I go, I want to get in front of as many of the right people as possible and build relationships with them, and good things always happen. So if you do, offer a once per month community thing as well, and you have to think how the pieces fit together. So a lot of times what we're doing, this will be a second step for the more like shy people.
Okay.
Where they want to do the group thing first, and then they'll come and do this. Like, oh yeah, she is cool. And there's safety in numbers, but you have some people that are just ready to go. Like the go-getters, the overachievers, and the people like you, they're just like, let's just get to this already. I want some one-on-one time.
Right,
so it'll serve both of those lanes. And again, you do the group thing once a month. That's 12 episodes a year that you don't have to worry about as well. Like, that's another 12 episodes.
Well, I didn't realize that you were using those as podcast episodes. I thought that was just like a bonus, like place where your audience sort of met after the fact, which I thought was cool in and of itself. And then the more episodes I've listened, I'm like, oh wait, here's the audio. I'm like, holy
He always
yes,
does
like,
this. Yeah.
this is brilliant. I'm like, this is so good. And I'm not even, actually one of your episodes I just listened to, I forget the name of there's like two guys who were on it who talked about like immediately starting with video so that they could, stream it to YouTube. And I was like, oh crap, there's another easy, right? Like I'm already recording it. I mean, I guess I'll have to do my hair, but, but the point is that it's like easy, like you're already doing it, already recording it. Right. So I liked the party component because I think especially like in this with the women I'm talking to, like being in this transition, like you feel like you're alone or you're crazy or that like, oh my God, no one's going through this. And so I love this idea of having some type of community. And I don't want to do it on Facebook, so if I can do it off Facebook and in a like conversation, I think that could be cool. So I like that idea.
Yes. So I would look at a once per month and, like episode 200 of the show, I break it down pretty hardcore where we really go into the process of how to set it up. But once a month, release it as an episode. There's another 12 down that you don't have to, put out there, that you don't have to create yourself. Now you see what I do. I use those as my solo episode. So I teach for 15 minutes at the beginning. So I do come up with the topic. And so that's two birds with one stone. So any of these solo topics that you've mapped out, you could just teach that at the beginning. And there's some sort of networking thing in the middle that everybody gets to talk segment. Wins of the month, referral of the month, question of the month, anything like that. And then there's open conversation and it's all audience driven. So think about that. You can get even more efficient with it.
I love it.
But this is going to lead into like membership model, small group coaching, one-on-one coaching. It all leads towards that. A note that I made, I don't know if you're doing this already. I think you could do really well with a VIP day format. Have you ever thought about that? So it's like,
no,
when you're in the life transition space, sometimes people just need a shot of momentum. All right. So the way I define a VIP day, it's a higher ticket offer where they're getting at least 4 consecutive hours of your time. That could be live and in person or virtual. Right. So that's like, a $2,000, $2,500 plus offer usually for that much time, depending on what you charge per hour and things like that. I just kind of like to put that number out there. I don't want you charging $200 for this.
Right.
I made $12 an hour. Like, no,
no, thanks. I'm good.
No, we want to do, but it's one-on-one, but it's like in depth. So like I have a process like called the community client bridge where kind of everything that we have been talking about, starting your community engagement lead magnet, how do we connect that to an audit style? Then how do we connect that to offers, having the right offers, and then connect the whole thing with your podcast? There's a lot of moving pieces that I can't really go into detail with when we're doing something like this.
Sure.
But I'll do a 4-hour VIP day and we map it all out. So that's the journey that I take people on. So it's like they go from idea, from concept to having all that live, all the links, it's all connected, it's all there. What's your CTA for the show? How is it all recorded? So use that as a template on how you could do something similar. And it's a high ticket. And you think like, I could square off a half a day on a Friday or every other Friday, make a few extra $1,000 a month off of this situation. That's going to pay some bills. So I think you could do really well with that. I know it's one-on-one, but we charge for that one-on-one.
Well,
like
and
price is adjusted.
And I kind of have already started to just like, and I'm starting to add it within the podcast while I'm talking, like, hey, if you want to dig deeper into this subject, or if you need personal one-on-one help, and then I kind of steer them to my like book with me page. And it's kind of a series of like 2 or 3 like one-on-one sessions, but I could make that more focused where it is like, this is the thing. If you want to work with me to get help, it's this VIP component, and like make it just very specific. So I like that.
Nice. I got to shout out my friend Michaela on YouTube. She's watching. She says, Adam, this is gold. And she just did a podcast out with me like right before you.
Awesome.
So thank you for continuing to support Michaela. All right. So speaking of supporting, Renata, I want to make sure that we get to shout out your show, your website, where people can get into your world, all that good stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
So take that mic. Let's do it.
Okay, so the podcast is the Millennial Midlife. I'm kind of everywhere where you can listen to podcasts. I think I'm working on it. And you can find me on Instagram at the Renata Musial.
Outstanding. And Renata's got a lot of great things cooking. She's in a great niche. If you are resonating, like, I might be a good audience member for her. So let's dive
Yeah,
into
I
her
would love
world
to.
for sure. And of course, I appreciate you jumping in and being willing to create some content with us here today, Renata. Now, if you guys are listening in and you're like, yo, I want to do one of these podcast audit things, this seems like it might be helpful. If you're feeling stuck as a podcaster, this is probably my favorite thing that I do in the podcasting space. Get a little bit one-on-one time. We get to help people level up. Jump on over on the main website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. It's at the top of the page. You get signed up. It is for free. You can be just like the amazing Renata over here,
It's
right
amazing.
on the show.
Do it.
It's amazing. All right, Pod Pals. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the show. We got great things coming. And as always, I'll send you out into the podcasting universe, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.